Hi, I'm Susan Brackley, and I'm teaching the book of Proverbs to women. And today we're in chapter 1, verse 4, and so far we have had an introduction. We have learned about Solomon, who is the author of it, and we have learned in verses 2 and 3 that why Proverbs was written, and now we're in verse 4 today. And verse 4 tells us who it was written to, but so does verse 5. But today we're only going to cover verse 4. And for the first people that it was written to, the book of Proverbs is written to, it says, to give prudence to the simple, knowledge and discretion to youth. So to the simple, or I think the King James says to the foolish, to the fool. Okay, so a simpleton is someone who lacks knowledge and lacks wisdom. And discretion to the youth. So this particular proverb is teaching us that it's for people who are simple, people who aren't very smart, and people who are not very wise, and to youth, people who are naive and haven't lived long enough to have the wisdom of God. That's what Proverbs is teaching, but also we'll learn in Proverbs everyday wisdom to everyday life in living, how God would have us to live. So Proverbs is going to equip us, and God wants every person to glean from Proverbs, okay? All his people, he's written that for us, and it's for every time period, for every race, for every age person. We're going to find in verse 5, it's for older people too. This one centers on youth, okay? It doesn't matter how smart we are or how not smart we are. Proverbs will help us all out, okay? So that's good that we all fit in that category. So this verse reveals that God wants us not to be unwise. He doesn't want us to be inexperienced. He wants us to have wisdom that is able to weigh things out in life and not just wing it, okay? Young people have that, they have a lot of confidence, self-confidence often, but they don't have the wisdom to go with it. And they don't always have enough common sense even to make the decisions that they should have made. And we're not picking on youth here, and neither is God. It's just the truth. That's how we all were, right? Are you smarter now, if you're older, than you were when you were young, when you were in your youth? I know that's true of me. It's true of all of us. We just don't have the time yet to, when we're in our adolescent years and younger, we don't have the time to know yet. But anyway, this verse says that God will give subtlety or discretion. Okay, discretion is when you can think things through, that you'll weigh things out, and he'll give us discretion, that wisdom that we need to have prudence. And the word simple, the simple person or the foolish one, means easily seducible. Someone who is silly. And we look at silly nowadays and we think of someone being silly and tickling them and playing with kids, but to be silly means that you're not serious about life. And God wants us to be serious about life. So if we're silly and we're naive and we're easily seduced like youth are, and we were when we were at those ages more than we are now, this book is for us, right? This is for you and for me. And young man, you look that up in the Hebrew, and that means from infancy to adolescence. And in verse 5, we're going to find it's to older people. So they're coming up next time. Now, I want to go to 1 Corinthians and read something that goes right along with this, okay? 1 Corinthians 1, verse 26 to, 29. It says, for consider your calling, brothers. Not many of you were wise according to worldly standards. Not many were powerful, and not many were of noble birth. Before you got saved, not many of you guys were out there having godly wisdom, right? None of us were, because we didn't have God at the time. And he said, most of us weren't of noble birth, but God chose what is foolish in this world to shame the wise. God chose what is weak in this world to